made us like California and New York. Strict mandates and lockdowns. Businesses closed. People laid off.
Before struggling and pointing to his throat, the coach noticed something was wrong and performed the Heimlich maneuver. The freshman student says he's thankful for the coach's actions. Well, this next story will really leave you stunned. A Maryland woman returns home from vacation only to find two people squatting in her apartment. The woman says the couple was in her bed. She recorded the entire scary encounter. She says when she tried to leave, the man got physical with her. As the couple packed up their stuff to leave, they told her how they got in, even saying she needed to put locks on her windows. The woman says the suspect stole nearly $50,000 worth of her belongings. I mean, it's bad enough when you come home from a trip and the house isn't like how you want it. You know, it's not clean and everything. But to come home and find that?
How do they get away with that? I always wondered that with these squatters.
I don't know.
How is that okay and that they get away with it?
You know what? Get a security system.
Yeah, I know. And lock your windows.
Yeah.
It is worth
They did give her that advice.
Yeah, right.
That was nice.
Thank you, Courtney.
Yeah.
Well, local mothers get some money.
The pedal pub crashing into the median there, where half of the riders were then caught underneath the vehicle. Police have charged the driver, identified as James Johnson, with DUI. APD tells Fox 5 15 people were on board the pedal pub when it tipped over while trying to make a turn. All of the riders were taken to a nearby hospital for treatment. Officers also charged Johnson with a business permit violation. Police have arrested murder, aggravated stalking, and aggravated assault. Over the weekend, deputies found Earl Kyler's body and issued an arrest warrant for Javon a short time later. The 22-year-old turned himself into authorities on Saturday night after family members informed him that investigators were working to track down his location. Kyler is now being held in the Douglas County Jail without bond.
A convicted felon's being detained at the Fulton County Jail tonight after Atlanta police reportedly caught him carrying an illegally modified gun during a routine traffic stop. According to ABD's crime suppression unit, Pontius Thomas was pulled over last week for driving without a tag. When officers walked over to the car window, however, they reportedly detected the smell of marijuana, which led to a search of the vehicle.
Jury selection will last at least a week and a half, but could stretch into 2 weeks.
I understand very clearly that none of you got your summons in the mail and said, Yahoo, I get to go serve on the jury. But it's important, ladies and gentlemen. This is not my court system or the sheriff's or the clerk's. This court system belongs to the citizens of Irwin County.
And the state is expected to call dozens.
Said the warrant was issued for the official's arrest for permitting or assisting in an escape. He said neither the inmate nor the official have been found in the search so far. The inmate, one 38-year-old Casey Cole White, was scheduled for a trial next month on a capital murder charge. Vicki White, the assistant director of corrections at the facility, told coworkers she was taking the inmate to the courthouse for a mental health evaluation on Friday. After that, the two then disappeared. The patrol vehicle that was used by the two was found at a nearby shopping center in the parking lot. U.S. Marshal Marty Keeley said at a press conference on Monday that both individuals are considered dangerous and, quote, in probability, both individuals are armed, end quote. Casey White is 6 foot and 2 inches. Keeley added that Casey White will stand out because of his size, even if he did change his appearance. Firefighters.
And to see the love and support we've gotten, as it takes one of those little pieces and it puts it back in place. Doesn't say it'll make it right, but it puts it back in place.
Authorities arrested Jacob Muse exactly 1 week after the murders and charged him with all 3 deaths. Police
custody for criminal prosecution. They could be cooperating in a law enforcement investigation, and I don't intend to provide that data publicly if it's law enforcement sensitive, but we know where those 42 are.
Last week, Mayorkas department created the Disinformation Governance Board. Republicans say it's an attack on free speech, but Mayorkas says that the board will not infringe on civil rights or liberties.
We address disinformation that presents a security threat to the homeland. Disinformation from Russia, from China, from Iran, from the cartels.
Police buses and a purchase that's coming up, and rehabilitation of multifamily homes. These are all better solutions, according to Ms. Vassal, than emergency shelters. Wants help? What is the failure rate?
It is less than 10%. I forget the actual number of returns to homelessness of the folks that we housed this surge.
City leaders are trying to strike a balance between compassion for the homeless to try to get them out of their situation and to make sure also that the police enforce the laws. From Buckhead, I'm Morris Diggs, Fox 5 News.
Saturday, snapping trees and damaging structures. Really fascinating. Scary to watch that video.
And today, a Russian missile strike in Ukraine's Dnipropetrovsk Oblast destroyed a grain store. Ukrainian authorities say a, quote, enemy missile was responsible for the attack, but thankfully no one was hurt. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky is warning of a food crisis for the country, as this is now the third grain store bombed in just days. And tonight, for the first time, we're hearing from Ukrainians who have been evacuated from Mariupol.
Russia's attack on the southern port city has been relentless since the war started almost 10 weeks ago. But this weekend, a brief moment of hope as a ceasefire allowed the first evacuation of civilians taking cover in a steel mill. Fox's Griff Jenkins has the latest from Kyiv.
Slowly emerging from the rubble of the Azovstal steel plant in Mariupol, where they have been trapped for weeks, dozens of civilians, mostly women and children, saw sunlight for the first time in days, evacuating on buses organized by the United Nations and Red Cross. Other civilians, stranded in the war-torn city, got out in battered vehicles, with tearful reunions as they arrived safely in Zaporizhia, 140 miles away.
It was a risk. It was a risk, but they wanted to get from Mariupol.
Hundreds of civilians and soldiers remain inside the plant, the last remaining stronghold of Ukrainian forces in the city. Those who got out recalled their horrific experience.
Constant shelling during the day, at night. The house were damaged. We hid in the basement.
Now, amid reports of renewed attacks on the city, the Pentagon is hopeful evacuations can continue.
We obviously urged.
Comes as a senior U.S. defense official says Russians have had minimal progress in the eastern Donbass region. Meanwhile, the State Department is sending diplomats back into Ukraine, announcing plans to reopen the Kyiv embassy by the end of the month. The acting ambassador sending a strong message to Moscow.
I would say the message to Russia is you failed. Ukraine is still standing.
And missile strikes continued across the country today, including in the southern strategic port city of Odessa, killing a 13-year-old child and seriously injuring a 17-year-old girl, according to the member of parliament from that area. In Kyiv,
It's a false choice to say that we can, of course, have good long-term goals on climate, which I'm committed to, and also increase domestic production.
Analysts expect the Federal Reserve to raise interest rates this week by a half percentage point, the sharpest rate hike since 2000.
Well, the draft has come and gone, and the Falcons are still wheeling and dealing, trying to improve their roster. See who's on the move. Next in sports.
Okay, all right, guys. It's time for Didn't See This Coming. Gabrielle, get them taste buds ready.